Welcome to some new r/malicious compliance stories, where people comply to the letter, but not the spirit of a request. I hope you had a great day. Thanks for all the likes and comments on the last video. If you would like to support this channel, please hit the like button and consider subscribing if you enjoy the content. And now let's start with the first story. It's called Dump Employee. I worked at an office supply store for a while in my late 20s while finishing college. I worked mostly with younger college students and began training other employees and running the front end of the store. Our amazing manager took a better position elsewhere, and we were gifted a manager who was absolutely horrible. Let's call her Jean. She treated us so poorly that we went from over 20 employees to just 7 in the first couple of months of her taking reign. Jean was absolutely horrible, but I stood up for myself and the few remaining employees and openly expressed my disdain for her while remaining completely professional on paper. And here come annual evaluations. Jean gives me an absolutely horrible review. Since our raises were performance-based, I did not get a raise. I refused to sign and contested my evaluation, which really set her off. Since we only had 7 employees left, we were desperately hiring. Within a week or two, she had hired a few people and scheduled me to train them. So I did what any rational human about to quit their crappy job for a career would do. I formally asked HR for retraining due to my perceived incompetence and made it clear that I was no longer comfortable training new hires. I simultaneously began refusing to do any work outside of my minimal assigned responsibilities and began moving really slowly. I made myself as incompetent as possible, refusing to answer customer questions via phone and forwarding all calls to her, paging her for help for stupid things, intentionally screwing up the cash register, and requesting policies for irrelevant operations. I stopped meeting quotas, and when coached, I would play dumb and pretend like I was trying my hardest. Most importantly, I started correcting customers and contractors who called her Jean and insisted her name was John. When she questioned me, I said, "I'm sorry, I can't pronounce your name well, John." It infuriated her. Of course, Jean was also set off that she had to train the new employees herself. I filed a formal complaint with HR about my lack of retraining every week, until they fired me. I had another job lined up, but I filed an unemployment claim anyway, just to leave some extra work for her. Petty bonus, I never told her that my mom was the store's biggest buyer at the time and had been in the top 3 forever. Guess who took her business to Office Max? My very non-confrontational mother actually went into the store to request her account be closed, knowing that contract accounts have to be closed by the store manager. She got canned about a year later, and I like to think I was the little match that lit that fire. The next story is called Training Material. This goes back a fair few years. Whilst working for a call center, we heard a buzz about a big new client coming on board, which was going to be outsourcing their in-house support. Naturally, it was a great opportunity for me, since I was a pretty tech-capable guy. Troubleshooting and support were natural to me since growing up. I was always around tech products etc. and got the job moving to a more senior role providing second-level support alongside assisting the training department. Whilst I did want to be moved to training since it would be a better use of my time, I didn't mind second-level support. I was good at my job and cleared my workload quite easily, so I could be left alone. During my downtime, I would make installation diagrams for first-level staff for reference, which was saved on a personal USB, since it wasn't authorized by our client and never would be. It didn't matter to me, since it made my job easier. Over the coming months, more people started relying on my diagrams, including the training department. So I decided to create a subdomain on my site and host an interactive version which was basic, but it worked. You got to select your equipment and what services you needed, and it would give you a full breakdown, which cut down my workload significantly. Since it wasn't sanctioned by the client, I didn't want to make it known that it was being used in work, linked through to an external site. So I created a new HTML file with an iframe embedded, which was stored on a shared drive that every member of the first, second and training lines could access. This meant the actual URL was now external, but wasn't visible. It was crude, but it didn't matter, since no one in those days knew much about finding URLs. It became so successful that it got rolled out as part of the system's training. The training department assumed it all came from the client, and because of turnover, they never really questioned it. Now, since it became part of the training structure, it really made it more valuable. Since the client doesn't get involved in training, the content is of no relevance to them, only results. During my downtime, I'd redo some reclear guides and update photos with the latest products so our staff could see exactly where connections and buttons were. For a few years everything was great. Pay was mediocre, but the environment was good and I got comfy till we got called to a meeting. Everyone. Our client has decided that as a company, our rates were not in line with their requirements and looking to outsource to another country, and we will be made redundant. Personally, for me, it was great, since the payout was based on years of service. However, the training team is no longer needed alongside the second level, so my time was up sooner rather than later. I got called into a second meeting and told that I will be handling the training at a higher rate of pay, but must follow the training guide to the letter. Whilst I was introduced in training to new starters and helped them during that time, I had to sit and go through all the material, which was 80% all based on the system and guides I had built. I tried to explain to my line manager and client that the main bulk of the training wasn't actually supplied and not sanctioned, but no one seemed interested. I was met with a cold, "The training packs have been a vital part of your company's ethos, so you should have no problem in making it work." So I did. Since everything in the shared folders was going to be passed over to the new support center, so was my localized HTML file. The new office was trained and the first, second and training departments were all primed and signed off ready to take over. So we moved to provide 80% of the workload to them once we learned this transition. Shortly after, things were going great. I was put in charge of a small team who elected to stay on while we completed the handover till I got called into a meeting. My services will no longer be needed and I will be offered an early redundancy. However, before doing so, I need to ensure that I sign a data protection form to ensure the company's secrets are protected and any content would need to be deleted or destroyed. I explained that part of the core training pack was not provided by the client and was generated in-house by myself. This wasn't good enough or deemed to be acceptable, so since I was being paid an early redundancy, I decided it wasn't worth the fight since they were no longer a client of ours. Naturally, I left and shortly after moved to a new branch locally and kept in touch with some of the staff who had been placed elsewhere. The client had moved on and things seemed to be okay. No big deal. During that time, I got an email from my domain and hosting provider that they are increasing their prices, so I decided I wasn't going to bother to renew and let my domain expire. After all, it was just a hobby for me to build and host a website. A few days later, I caught up with one of the staff who got kept on and couldn't stop laughing. That 80% part of the training pack resource was no longer online. The content couldn't be loaded or found anywhere. The ex-client wasn't happy that they have a whole call center that cannot provide the same, if any, support because the systems cannot load. I was lazy and picking up things was always slow on my to-do list, so everything I had built was gone. Needless to say, the ex-client was in a right mess and now would have to essentially rehire everyone they could. However, the company I work for had already let many members go or replaced the offices with new clients. I was contacted pretty swiftly to be rehired back, which I would have accepted for a higher rate of payment. It was instantly refused, so it was pretty much cut and dry for me. It took the company about 6 months of hell to go back to a somewhat acceptable standard. After that, they dissolved the outsourced call center again and possibly went to stock some more prey. The third story is called Ice Cold. When I was a teenager, I worked at a certain fast food restaurant known for customer service. I used to work the drive-thru. I was the voice in the box, while also prepping drinks for the window. We'd have people come through with all kinds of requests and grievances. One day I was taking a woman's order, and she added a bottle of water. The last time I ordered a bottle of water, it was warm. So, please, make sure you give me one that is cold this time. We keep the bottles in our fridge, but they get stocked from room temp, so I guess she got one that was recently stocked the last time. Lady is really upset about this and reminds me a few more times to make sure it's cold. Being a teen, I'm mildly amused with myself when I decide to most certainly make sure her water is cold. I grabbed one of our extra large cups, fill it with ice and stuff the water bottle right in the middle. My coworker at the window gives me a weird look, but I just tell her to go along with it. Lady comes to the window and my coworker hands her the cup ice bottle contraption. I'm feeling slightly smug until the lady starts ranting and raving about how this is customer service and how happy she is to know it will most certainly be cold, etc, etc. She even ended up submitting feedback to the store about how great it was. At the end of the day, I'm happy she got her cold water, even if it was in the most ridiculous way. The last story is called Upsells. This story happened 2 years ago. Anyone who has worked dealing with customers in a fast food restaurant knows that upselling customers is the worst and most uncomfortable thing to do. So when the opportunity for me to have fun with it came up, I took it. There was an error in the program where we took orders, and I noticed a 16 piece of chicken fried bits was for €0. I should have reported it, but this is a huge multi-international company and they paid poorly. From the moment I noticed this error, I upsold this product to every single customer I served, and honestly had a lot of fun working that day. The error was found later that same day. And with that, we end today's video. Let me know what you think about the stories. On a scale of 1 to 10, how would you rate the stories in today's video? I hope you enjoyed the video. If you like what I do and want to support me, please subscribe and hit the like button. I hope you have a great day. Stay safe. Bye bye.